Hey, animal chiropractic friends. This is Dr. Amy Hayek, and I am joined here today with Ben Blecha. He is the founder of Hero Bracing. And Hero Bracing, some of you may be familiar with through the veterinary side of things, but as animal chiropractors, we couldn't ask for a better support system. And by support, I mean that as a pun, physically and philosophically, because in our dogs in particular, we deal with a ton of musculoskeletal lameness issues, and that's what hero bracing is out there to do, is to help those animals make it through that transition period between not being able to move and the miracles that you as animal chiropractors produce. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben and let him tell us a little bit about what is Hero Bracing. Tell us a little bit about their story. I'm really glad that you're taking the time to spend some time with us today, and I appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Was that recoil? No, I just want to make sure.
No.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. No, it's fun to reach out and all these integrative medicines and how we can work together. It's just making these dogs do so much better. I mean, I'm an amputee myself, so I like to see that. I kind of have a place in my heart for everybody that's helping with all these other things that, you know, when I first got into helping with the dogs, you know, there's always this saying that a three-legged dog can do just fine. And I'm like, I want better than fine, you know? I mean, I'm an amputee. I want better than that. So it's always a pleasure to come and work with you and everyone in this field.
So tell us a little bit about what got you into dog bracing or dog prosthetics, because I think
Sure.
part of that story is what helps animal chiropractors understand how much more closely you are related to this project and how much that helps us as animal chiropractors, because, you know, we don't want them to be in braces forever. We want them to be able to transition out of them if they can, but if they can't, we want them to have the right bracing and the perfect brace. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. Yeah. Well, so for background for me, like I mentioned, I'm an amputee. So I had osteosarcoma when I was in high school. And then after we tried to do several limb salvage procedures, we couldn't. And so I ended up being an amputee when I was in college. And at that point, I switched to go into prosthetics and orthotics, and I moved down to Dallas. And at the same time, one of my former roommates from college was going to chiropractic school, and so during his time in his last trimester, he had to have so many adjustments, and so he talked me into going in 3 times a week for adjustments, and I said, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't." He said, "Just help me out." So but at that time, I would sit and my pelvis was very uneven, and I could tell in the car, and I didn't think anything about it because I was fine, right? Well, after a trimester of you know, so many adjustments a week, I felt my pelvis level out, and I was like, you start realizing how much the spine really does affect so many other things. You know, I mean, we're so used to just toughing things out, you know, and just becoming more aware of that. So that was my first introduction really into chiropractic. And then of course so I go on in my career, and I kind of bounce around the country a little bit, and I worked at a Shriners Hospital in South Carolina, and then Kansas City. I ended up in Denver, and my uncle, who's a veterinarian, was friends with Dr. Taylor, who was on Emergency Vets at Animal Planet. And so he said, "You got to go check this place out." And so I started talking to him, and we started just creating braces and prosthetics for different animals. And so, yeah, it I don't know, we probably had 30 or 40 different designs for different things. And then at some point, I was asked to speak at the International Veterinary, too many words, Veterinary Rehab and Physical Therapy Symposium. I can't remember, something like that.
One of those things. Made it
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
good.
yeah. So I spoke at that, and then people all over the country, or actually world, started asking me to start making braces for them, and so early on that was kind of complicated because I was so used to getting my hands on the animal and palpating and doing different things, right? Things that we know in chiropractic that, you know, if we can tell so much more with our hands, right?
Yeah.
And and so I had to figure out how to start teaching this, and this was before we had there was much Zoom or anything, you know. So we were printing CDs with videos and stuff like that, you know, and trying to teach people when they'd order a brace. And so now we get a FaceTime, so it's come a long ways. It's helped our customer service a lot in what we can do. Um, and so since then, that was in 2008 when I spoke at that meeting, and this is pretty much what I do full time now. Is just the the bracing, and so we narrowed that 30 or 40 down to what I felt we could do comfortably from a distance, to 3 braces. So we do a stifle brace, a carpal brace, and a hock or tarsus brace. So there's different versions of each of those, but I really feel that those 3 braces will cover about 90% of your needs, bracing wise. So
Cool. That's a pretty awesome story because it tells me you are like locked in with animal chiropractic from your history, and you understand that that chiropractic adjustment can do so much for these animals while we're rehabbing them and making them better. That's pretty, I didn't know all of that. I knew some of your background, but I didn't know that part. So, um, so, so I guess that brings us to our next question a little bit, in that how can the bracing that we're doing for these animals help animal chiropractors, like just make their practices work better? What can they do to make their practice better by using more, you know, using bracing in their technique, or using bracing? At what point do they implement bracing? I guess that.
right. Yeah, and I think to answer that best, we kind of have to unwind a misunderstanding about bracing. Um, so, and chiropractors aren't the only, like I've seen physical therapists think this too. And there's this kind of this blanket statement that bracing makes the leg weaker. Um, and, and I feel like, I think you're right in the sense that it can, but I think if it is, you're doing it wrong.
Okay, good.
Um, and so I kind of break this up into kind of 2 different sets of injuries that we might look at. Okay, and keep in mind. So first, let's go back. Why would we even look at the injuries of the external limbs um, to affect chiropractic? Right. Well, if one limb is injured, it's basically shorter, and you're going to cause, you know, some unevenness in the spinal column, and it's going to cause a torsion that whatever you do, it keeps unwinding, right?
Mhm.
And so we really have to address these extremity issues to help maintain what we're doing in chiropractic. So like, I think, like, if you think about like foot orthotics for humans, you know, podiatrists think of them more as a way to shift the foundation, where chiropractors think of it more as a way of helping me retain my adjustment, right? It's and so when we're looking at this in these extremity issues, they kind of come up into 2 issues. You know, we talk the musculo and then the skeletal part. Now, if there's a skeletal issue, a bone will heal as long as we have it in the right alignment. We should be okay, right? But a lot of what goes on is ligamentous and tendon issues, okay? And we know that those, basically, if they're completely torn, they're not going to heal again, right?
Right.
And if we can't have surgery, we've got to find some way to support them for the rest of their life, right?
Mhm.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to support that motion that is, well, that is gone or there now. I mean, it can go either
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got to support that, all while allowing the other motions, the good motions that that can keep us even, right? And so with that, we have to, you know, we kind of retract if we think about braces will make these weaker, right? And so we're like, we don't want to do this long term. But if this tendon's not going to come back, we've got to figure out how to do it long term and allow the motions that we want, right?
Right.
And so that's where I think that we really help in how you design those braces that can allow those motions, so you can keep that strength and being able to do that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing is when we flip over to the musculo side, okay? Now, I think this is really where we talk about weakness, okay? So if we put on a solid brace, and you just don't use a muscle, it's going to get weaker. And so that makes this statement really understandable, right? It makes it weaker.
Yes.
But the thing is so I want to rewind a little bit, and if we think about how muscles get stronger and how it um, heals, um, let's go back. If you or I were to start training for a marathon, okay?
Sure.
And
You
so
would beat me. I just want you to know.
one-legged, right?
Yes.
So today we're going to decide we're going to do this, and we're going to run 20 miles today.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
This is
Sure.
how we're going to start our training. Okay. And so we probably weren't going to train again for about 3 more months if we tried to do this 20 miles.
Right. I think I would stop and just eat some cake. I'd be fine.
Right. Right. But we understand this concept that we have to have a gradual incremental change in our therapy to grow muscle, right?
Mhm.
And so the thing is about muscle injuries is basically we're still doing the same thing, but we're starting at a much lower level, right?
Okay.
So instead of, like, what we should really do to run a marathon is start with a mile the first day, and work up to 2 miles, right?
Or maybe a block or
Right,
whatever.
right. Well, so that's the same thing with these animals that are injured. We've got to lower that way down, right? So maybe it's 10 minutes, you know, and if we're lucky, if we have an hour treatment time, that maybe we can work up to an hour, right?
Sure.
But and in that time, as soon as we get it worked up to an hour, then we're going to start adding weight or repetitions to, because we're going to maximize that hour that we have with that animal. Okay. So we've been doing this for however long the owners allowed us. And then this night, dad comes home and plays at fetch for 2 hours.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. So we just fell off that cliff, right? Now we're back to, like, we can't work this muscle for 2 months again,
I'm
right?
back to the cake. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that concept's called muscle fatigue, right? You can bring it up to a certain point and then you drop off a cliff,
Yeah.
right? Well, so let's go back to that example. Well, if even though we're putting on a solid brace on the leg, right?
Yeah.
That means that we can maximize that muscle conditioning during that hour, and we can protect the leg for the next 23 hours until the owner brings it back in again,
Right.
right? So because what happens is, if dad plays fetch and then he starts limping, it's not dad's fault, it's our fault, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, whatever you did, it was too much. Well,
Right. Obvious, always.
yeah, exactly. And so what we should be using these solid braces for is a protective mechanism until we can get up to that point to wean them out, right?
Mhm.
And so that, I guess that's the biggest thing that I would like people to understand is how to use bracing properly to maximize your success. Okay.
Can you explain for me? So, is there a soft brace versus a solid brace? Or there two different kinds?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a whole spectrum, and I like to say that there's two spectrums in bracing. So one is the soft versus the more rigid. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the soft tend to be kind of more off the shelf. So there might be 5 or 10 different sizes. Um, they're not as supportive. So you think about dogs with that are lighter and dogs that have less of an injury. Okay, it's
Okay.
not, and then solid, obviously that's the other spectrum. The other spectrum that I say is off the shelf versus custom.
Mhm.
Okay, so just to kind of frame that a little bit, if you or I were to tear our ACL, there's 14 different sizes that we could choose from. Just for That's just for adults, humans, okay?
Uh-huh.
Um, so what is there, 200-300 breeds of dogs, and think of throw in,
Maybe more. I don't know.
right, yeah, throw in some Varus or Valgus,
Every possible poodle combination.
right, right, yeah, yeah, exactly. So like there's no way that we can get 4 or 5, even 10 different sizes to
Sure.
fit this large spectrum. And so that's really important for these really minute movements that we have to support. So like a cruciate tear, right? It's such a small translation that we're trying to support, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so to think that we could actually do that with 4 or 5 sizes, it seems rather silly to me. And
Yeah.
so, but there are some things that we can support with that. Some mild carpal hyperextension. I mean, we don't need as much support with that, especially in the smaller dogs. And so I don't want to poo-poo all the soft bracing or the off the shelf bracing,
Sure.
because I think there's a spot for it. Where I focus my practice is more on the custom side, and we kind of refer out the others to places that we know would have that brace that would be helpful. So
Awesome. Cool. So what's the process? Give us a little bit of the background of, so let's say I have an animal who, comes in with a definite cruciate issue,
mhm.
since we're using that example. And I adjust him and set up a rehab, but it's not healing. What's the next thing I need to do to get that animal in an appropriate brace?
Yeah. So, like I said, everything we do is custom. So, in order to do that, we need a cast of the leg. Okay. So, we basically fill that cast full of plaster and make a model of the leg so we can make the brace directly for that animal. Okay. Um, Now, when I say casting, there's a lot of people that cringe, or there's this laundry list of, oh, I can't do that. I don't have this in my practice. I don't have a cast saw, or I've never casted before. And um, really, casting is very similar to wrapping a bandage.
I always
Um,
think of it like paper mache.
yeah,
When you make that paper mache around the balloon or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, and the nice thing is we don't have to put as much paper mache on it with this fiberglass stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot thinner, right? And
Yeah.
it's not near as messy.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, really, when you're wrapping it on, it's something like that. And I mean, bandaging material. And what we actually do is we send this little cutting strip. It's like a protective strip that you put underneath of it, so you
Uh-huh.
won't cut the animal. And
Mhm.
then it has a little box cutter that cuts down the side of it, like has a hook blade on it. So that strip makes it so you don't have to have a cast saw. The animal wasn't stressed by this loud noise, and so we've taken a lot of things out of it and made it simpler.
Awesome. So it all comes as a kit with instructions, and I don't have to be a genius to do it.
Yeah, and we have videos and to help you through that, or we can FaceTime with you and be live with you too to help you through it too. So
Yay! I don't even have to read. That's
there you
great.
go.
I love it. You are so set for the 21st century. You know, no cursive writing, no reading.
There you go.
Fabulous. Cool. So then I get my dog's, cast made, and I send it to you, and then the brace comes back.
Yeah, it takes us about 2 weeks to manufacture it, and then we send it back. We start sending a series of videos. You know, the fitting video. We have some exercise videos, and then, like I said, just with follow up, if anytime you need to FaceTime, we can work through and help. Because so many people don't, is this fitting right? Is this gap supposed to be here? We want to take away all those stresses, and it's just easier for us to get our eyes on it with the FaceTime and reassure you that way.
So that sounds like great customer support for both the veterinarian / animal chiropractor and for the client. It sounds, because
Yeah, I mean, so going back, I mean, I'm an amputee, and I have this understanding that this doesn't do any good if it's sitting in the closet, right? And
yeah.
I want to really help the animal, and if we can't support on those other things, we can't help the animal. So
I would imagine you're really busy right now because people are sitting at home looking at their animals more often, and so they see more of those little minor things, imperfections, whatever.
yeah, I think I think that's part of it for sure. I mean, I don't know. I guess we talked about this a little bit before. I mean, my uncle's a veterinarian, and he insists that during recessionary times or down times like that, people aren't traveling, and so they have more time and maybe not more money, but that's more their focus is to help their animals, and so he says that his clinic does better during recessions. So we've seen an uptick since COVID started for sure. So.
Oh, that's interesting. And I think it's a benefit for those animals for sure. We find that the more animal chiropractic there is in a community, the healthier the community is overall.
I
So
would.
if, if we're able to help those animals even better with good bracing, great customer support, and good, follow up for long term, which is, I think, what we're seeing.
Yeah, no, and I think you see that on the human side too. We live in rural Nebraska, and um, you can kind of tell how progressive and how well the community is by the number of chiropractors in town too. So, I mean, two or three versus one or none, so it's a big difference. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabulous. Um, so the next thing I want to know is, you know, what are we going to expect for our Basecamp attendees? I know Hero Bracing is supporting Basecamp through sponsorship, and definitely, you know, this kind of information that they're going to get ahead of time before the actual conference. What are those attendees going to be looking forward to learning about bracing either during or because of?
Yeah, no, I mean, we'd like to give you more access to how to cast. We've always found that, that's the integral part of your success and doing those castings. And so, I mean, if we can contribute that, that's like, 80% of the part of your success is learning that. So yeah, we're excited about contributing that part. And overall, Basecamp, I'm just excited about the idea. I mean, so many of us I mean, I don't even think that we're going to be able to travel to large conferences, you know, this fall, maybe even next spring with accounts, you know, and so like, I still want to see my people, you know, so I'm excited for that. So
We're really looking forward to getting all these animal chiropractors together so they can see each other. But to
exactly.
be able to interact with you guys is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else you want to tell us about bracing or about what these doctors need to know before they get started trying or thinking what they need to do?
No, I mean, I want you to get your feet wet. You know, managing the expectations of the owner is always the important as with anything. And so if there's anything I can help you, I just want to be a resource. You know, we've been doing this for 15 years, and I want to see you succeed. So
How can they contact you now, between now and the conference? How can they contact you to get more information?
sure, our website's goherogo.com.
It's a
And
GO
yeah,
com. Awesome. And they can get you through the website and they can email or
yeah,
call.
email us, call, anything. You know, we see cases, so if you want, you don't know, you just want to send us videos, we'll see all that stuff. And what I do is I do a little screen share on my computer, and I kind of talk through, and then you can see it, you can share it with your owner, and go from there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much
Well, thanks for having me.
for being here and taking the time. And our attendees are going to see this video, but we're going to also put it out there for those who have not signed up yet so that they can see what they're missing by not attending Basecamp, and they can sign up for Basecamp at animalchiropracticeducation.com. Right under the courses, you'll find Basecamp Pro. There are 3 levels they can attend. They can come live, they can attend virtually, and they can attend virtually with the bonus package, which is a pretty awesome package because then they get all the goodies
Very
that
cool.
come with it. All right, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Oh wait, I don't want to end the meeting. I need to cancel that. Oops.